Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Thanks for your love and support. In this video, we will start continuing our discussions related to design serverless solutions with Azure Durable Functions. My name is Anshuman Dikshit. I'm an Azure PaaS web application developer. Mostly my stacks are belonging to Microsoft technologies. If you really want to reach me out, you can go through the email address, you can go through the LinkedIn, or you can collect the samples in GitHub. What we were actually exactly discussing in our previous video. Let me share the demo. So if you have not watched my previous video, please go and watch that previous video so that you will be understanding why we really need Azure Durable Functions over our normal Azure functions, and you will be able to understand how this feedback system we were actually designing. In my previous video as well, in part 2, I have created the starter function which is actually getting triggered from a Postman API. Um, that Postman API can be changed to your UI feedback submission form. Now, the advantages of having an starter function is it will trigger the entire feedback system. But in Orchestrator function, it will start activating the activity functions. Now, it is the only responsibility of Orchestrator functions to how to call the activity functions. What exactly we will have in terms of advantage, let me share those things. So when we will be having orchestrator function, the first and foremost advantage is we'll be handling our state in our own functions. In normal Azure functions, if we want to interact with multiple functions, we have to store our state inside a SQL server or inside a storing mechanism. Maybe it will be a SQL server. Maybe you want to store it in the queue storage. Maybe you want to store it in a service bus queue or Kafka queue. You can store it over there and you can pull it when the next Azure functions gets called. But in durable functions, the advantage is we will store and we will handle everything in our Azure functions. There is no need to store it into an SQL server. So if you want to store it in a database, again you have to have a network call so that it will go to the database and it will collect the entire function, entire state. Maybe if you want to store it in a service bus queue, it will again going to cost you a little bit more as you are actually using another Azure services. Now that is the first part. Then second part is we will be handling our errors and exceptions in our durable functions globally. Why we need? Suppose I am interacting with multiple Azure functions and maybe I am calling function 1, then function 2, then function 3. What if some error occurred on function 3 and we have some dependency in function 1 as well? So function 1 has to understand that yes, some error got occurred in function 3 so that it will terminate or it will retry, it will create some retry over there. So we will be dealing those things as well, and if time permits I will show you the parallel executions as well. So let me start my functions over here. So what we will be dealing with right now is we will create this orchestrator functions. Now I'll go to my Visual Studio. Yes, so previously I just need to show you that what we have already designed previously. Previously we have an postman over here, and here we are actually sending a feedback system, feedback JSON object, and it is just triggering this Azure functions, and we are just getting a result that message got created if the message is not null. Then if the messages is not null, now we want to actually trigger the durable functions, the orchestrator functions, this one. Correct. Now let me just go to Azure functions. Now to create the Azure durable functions, you need one package. Go to here, go to your function app, right click on dependency, go to this NuGet packages. I have already installed these packages, otherwise it will consume a little bit of time. So you need this package called as microsoft.azure.webjobs.extensions.durable tasks. It has all the dependency, it has all the attributes for orchestration client, for your durable client, and for the activity clients. Now you just need to install this. Now if I will go over here, I will create my first orchestrator functions now. I'll just right click on the function app, go to add, go to new Azure functions, go to Azure functions. Now type your function name, feedback orc.cs. This will be my orchestrator function. Now I'll just add it. Let's wait. You can actually go and trigger anything. We will be dealing it from scratch. So you can go from HTTP trigger, or you can actually go to durable functions orchestration, and you can trigger it from there as well. I just need to trigger something over here so that I will get the boilerplate code. Then I will change it. Now for first, I just need to invoke the dependent library using microsoft.azure.webjobs.extensions.durable Now once this got created, I don't really need to trigger it through HTTP. Now it will to act it like a orchestration function. I just need to pass an attribute over here, orchestration trigger attribute. Now this attribute has a interface like I durable orchestration context. As it is an orchestration class, I will always going to use something like orchestration context, orchestration trigger like this. Now I'll just write it like context. Now I just want to make it a string so that I can actually let's do one thing. I'll just copy the message feedback form class. I'll just pass it over here so that we will return it, so that we will check whether we actually calling the orchestration functions or not. Now message feedback form, I just need to invoke the dependency over here. Now it got invoked. Now I'll just write it. I'll just return. I'll just return something over here. Let's do that part first. Var feedback message is equal to context dot. There is a method called as get input. Now these feedback messages will be coming from the starter function. Now starter function has a message feedback form class over here. So this one will be the object we will be calling to the orchestrator functions as a parameter. So I'll just copy this thing. Now this should deserialize the feedback message in terms of message feedback form class. Now I just need to if feedback message is not null, I can actually type a ternary over here. It will be a better option. Feedback message is not equal to null, then I will go for feedback message. Otherwise, I can just pass null. If something goes wrong, it will show you null. Okay. Now it looks good. The orchestrator function got created. I have collected the feedback message and I'm returning it. Now it has to be called from the starter function. We will go over here. We need another attribute over here. Just let me use the library Microsoft dot Azure dot webjobs dot extensions dot durable tasks. Sorry. Now I just want to call this, but I need a durable client so that I will call my durable orchestrator functions. Correct. Now I'll just come over here. I'll just pass an attribute over here, durable client. Now this has a interface, a durable client, I think. Yeah. Now it will be my starter client. Looks good. Now I'll just copy this thing where feedback from feedback from orc. So this feedback is coming from orchestrator function, and I'll just copy the starter function dot create start new async. Start new async. I just need to pass something as an input. It is a generic object. I'm just passing the message feedback form as an input. Now in a parameter, I have to pass my orchestrator function name. Just come over here. Let me just copy this thing. I'll just type it. Remember, you should not hard code anything over here. You just, if you really want to actually do something over here, you have to store it inside a constant class. It's a best practice you can follow. Orchestrator function, then I'll just pass my message. Now let's see if everything goes well. I'll just if let's do one thing where feedback message org equal to null. Now this thing I can collect over here. If this thing is not null, then send the feedback orchestration, or send it something went wrong. Right. Now just let me remind you one thing. This one is a async task, so I have to await it. Hope everything goes well. Yep. Let's see what happens over here. Cannot implicitly convert type string to feedback, says for model. Yeah, I forgot that I was actually sending something over here. Let me just check over here what I'm sending. Yeah, I just forgot that this start new async will always going uh, to return a orchestration ID over here. So it's better we can use this orchestration ID, and we will check if orchestration ID is not null. We can actually do like from org function, right? Now let's see if everything goes well. It should run. I'm just running it. Let's wait. As this is running, I'll just go. and I will just check. Yes, it is running. Now I'll go over here. I'll just send a request over here. Let's see if it's hitting to the breakpoint or not. Before that, I can go and I can actually put a breakpoint over here, right? So I can move on. Now, as I can see, this is actually not invoking the Azure function. Let me check what exactly the error is. Sometimes it creates some glitch in the local host. I'll just start rebuilding it. Let's see. It's rebuilding. You can actually follow these steps and see if rebuild got succeeded or not. Now I'll just come over here. I'll just start my application and let's wait. Now, as you can see, I have already run this function up. Now I'll go to my Postman and I will just start it. Now it's hitting on the breakpoint. We will just see whether I got my message or not. I'm just debugging. Now, as my message, I already have a message body over here. It deserialize it. Now I will just see if I am actually pointing to my orchestrator functions or not. Now see, I'm coming to my orchestrator function. Now orchestrator function got triggered. Let's see that whether I can get the feedback message over here. Yes. Now message feedback of whatever the thing we have actually passed from the postman, it is actually coming to this thing. And as we don't have any message feedback, we can just pass this thing to my function app. Now here I am getting from orchestrator function. That means that function app executed successfully. Now suppose I have already I have created my orchestrator functions, right? Now I got the feedback function. It is another, remember it is another separate functions. Now always remember whenever the activity functions gets down, just give me 1 minute, I'm showing you the demo. Yeah, whenever the orchestration function invokes everything from the starter function, it will call the activity functions. Remember one thing, whenever you are designing the orchestrator function, try the code duplications and try to minimize the code as little as possible, and try to create a loose coupling with respect to the functionality. Why? Because orchestrator function, again, when it will invoke the activity function, now once the activity function gets finished its work, it will again going to invoke the orchestrator functions. Now suppose I will go over here. I just want to show you what exactly I'm telling. If feedback message is not equal to null, I'm checking the nullability. Now here I will call an activity function, activity function, right? Now if I will go over here, now this activity function will collect the feedback data from here and it will store it inside the SQL. Now, once the SQL inside the SQL storage, it will be stored. It will get back a feedback ID, and now that feedback ID, I have to store it in this orchestrator function, so that that can be called to the second feedback function, second activity function, that is send email to customer. Suppose I am sending email to customer, that means that customer has to know that what is the exact feedback ID you have, so that it will contact to your service provider or to your customer support that yes, I do have my feedback ID over here, so can you give me some status, right? So now if I have created one single normal Azure functions applications over here. What if I really need this feedback ID? In this send email functionality, I just need to get back to the SQL server. It will again gonna be a one call to the SQL server. Now I will get the feedback ID and I will send it to the email contact person, right? If we will not go for the SQL server, we can store it into a queue mechanism, queue storage, like we already have Azure Service Bus, or you can use actually RabbitMQ or Kafka or anything like that. Whenever I will get some feedback ID over here in this feedback function, save feedback from data function, I will just pass it to my service bus queue. Now, once I will get something in the service bus queue, I will trigger this function and I will send an email. But that is an extra cost as I am just using another services over there to just store the feedback ID, correct? Now here, what we will do in the next video, we will create two activity functions in the next video, and whatever the feedback ID we will get from our Azure SQL, we will store it over here and we will pass it to the next Azure functions. Now let us discuss about the global error handling. Now I might think that I am thinking that you will be able to understand how you can handle the exceptions and error globally. Just put a try catch over here, try something, and I just need to put this thing over here, right? If everything goes correct, I'll just come up and I will just put if some kind of exception occur, exception ex, I just need to log this thing. I already have a log over here. I can just log dot log information. I'll pass something over here to like exception dot message dot toString. Right. This will log this will log the exception inside the so inside. You can actually use a normal file system, or you can go for the application insights to log your exceptions and all. Now suppose I will have two activity functions. My first activity function will call the SQL store procedure, SQL DB, and store the feedback form data. And then second activity function will send the email to the respective person. Right. I will just write a simple var over here where feedback id equal to string dot null string dot empty. Now this feedback ID will be filled up by using this activity function, and that feedback ID will be getting it sent to this email ID in the next video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching this video. I'll just create my next video so that the time expansions will be a little bit less. Thanks for your love and support. Keep like, subscribe, and share and comment. Thank you. Thanks.